Somebody was telling me sometimes it's hard to meet new people, and it's just, it's hard. I get it. I'm like, people think I'm great at it and I'm an extrovert, but really I'm afraid when I meet new people on the inside. So now you know somebody that you can talk with after service, and you know something that they're thankful for, which you already got a head start on practicing part of my message that we're going to get to in a little while. Today we're starting a new series, and I'm so grateful for that worship that we just came out of. And I love one of the things that's not unique to our church, but one of the things we really try to do is work together between the message and the worship to tie everything together. And I love that the heart of those songs that we just sang are what Jesus is going to talk about in his message to the disciples and to us this morning. Our new series that we're starting today, we're going to look at 3 chapters in the book of John 14, 15, 16. If you have a red letter Bible, almost all of it is red. It's a long speech by Jesus. It's the final long speech that he really gives to his disciples the night before he's arrested and then crucified and goes into the grave. They're not his final words. Those would be after his resurrection. We've looked at those recently as well. But this is the last big message to his disciples of, you're going to go into the world. This is what I want you to do. This is what you're going to face. This is what things are going to be like. And within these words are teachings of Jesus that I keep coming back to, both personally as a follower of Jesus as well as a pastor. We've looked at part of these as a church before, but there's power in these. And partly how these words have been so impactful to me at the start of college, I encountered this verse in John chapter 14, verse 12, and it's Jesus talking to the disciples, and he says to them, "You will do these things that I have done, and even greater works than these you will do." And I read this verse and I said, I can't keep reading. I said, I got to stop for a minute. And then I stopped for a week, and I stopped for a month, and I prayed through this. And I said, Jesus, is this for me? If it is, is this for all of us? Because I don't know if this is what I see around me, but if I'm taking you seriously, Jesus, this is for all of us. And sometimes when we read the Bible, right, there's a few things that are for a specific church, and most of it's for all of us, but sometimes we wonder, is this really for me? And I want to encourage you to hear these words and this whole series. This is for you. Not for me as a pastor, this is for you. And I don't just say that of I know this. But in John 17, verse 20, he tells the disciples, I'm praying and I'm speaking not just to you disciples, but everyone who will ever believe in me through your message. So that's you. Maybe a couple hundred, generations later of disciples of Jesus is us, who will ever believe. Not just those who will believe in your message, but those who will ever believe in the disciples of the disciples' message. So this promise is for you. So if you've heard this maybe before, or maybe you're hearing it for the first time this morning, and you're like, yeah, maybe for Pastor Austin, but not for me. I want you to throw that idea away. That idea is not from God. That's from the flesh. This is a promise for you. And maybe you haven't experienced it yet in your life, but if you don't just throw that away, you're not going to be able to experience it. And God wants you to experience it. I want to see our church experience this. So I want to invite you. We're not even getting to this verse this morning, but I want to invite you this summer, pray this verse over your life. Pray this verse over your family. Pray this verse over our church. Maybe you read these 3 chapters of John 14, 15, 16. Maybe you read them every week this summer. Maybe you read them every day this summer. It's not actually that, it sounds crazy, but it's 12, 15 minutes, depending on your reading speed. It's actually not that much. But just sit with these words of Jesus and say, you know what, I'm going to pray this over my life. And maybe I don't see it yet, but God said it, and I know when God speaks, it comes to reality. So I'm going to trust and believe that this is for us. And my message this morning is called, Make It Your Own. Make it your own. Take heart. Make it your own, take heart. And Jesus is going to talk to us in the opening, verse 1. We're going to look at verse 1. We're going to focus on verse 1 of this message to the disciples this morning. And he talks about the fact that where we position our heart will determine our actions. Where your heart is, that's what your life is going to look like. It will determine your identity will determine your response to things that happen to you in this world. Right? Life is going to happen. What happens? It will determine your values and your purpose. Biblically, the heart is the center of our being. It's where our emotions and decisions all come from. And if your heart is not healthy, nothing you do is going to be healthy from it. But if you let God bring health and healing over your heart, you will live a life filled with peace and vitality. This is the promise of Jesus, like, have peace in your life. And our vision as a church is for you to walk out your faith in victory. As a church, that's why we exist. We want to see you. We want to see everybody that comes through these doors walk out their faith in victory. Today, I want to talk to you about a really important part of that, the position and attitude of your heart. So what does he say? In verse 1, he says, don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God and trust also in me. So the first part of that is both a command and an invitation, right? Don't let your hearts be troubled. Don't worry is another way to think about it. Actually, the literal word here is don't let your hearts be shaken. Don't let it be shaken, right? When life happens and we get afraid, what happens? Our heart starts to shake. Maybe our body starts to shake a little bit in fear. And Jesus is saying, don't let your heart be shaken. And then the way to do that is believe in God and believe in me. If you want to go through life and so you're not shaken, you're not worried, believe in me. It's a confidence of purpose that no matter what's happening, I know where I'm going. I know who I am in Jesus. And I know. And I'm not worried with anything that happens. This is his words to us. Now, I'm amazed how far medicine has come in some areas and how little it's progressed in other areas. But, man, when it comes to cardiology, which that word cardiology comes from the word cardia, which is the word Jesus uses here for heart. The heart is the cardia. So we get this study of medicine about the heart from this Greek word, actually. But I'm amazed that I was learning about this, that sometimes when the heart is not working properly, what they do is they shock the heart and they actually stop the heart, and then there's a shock that starts the heart again. And they like restart it so it works right. And what was amazing to me is, you know what that means? That some of the smartest people, some of the smartest doctors were one time sitting around like, I don't know how to fix this. Maybe if we turn it off and turn it on again, it'll start working. Like, just like your computer or your Wi-Fi router. Like, let's just turn it off and turn it on and see what happens. Like, maybe we'll just do a hard restart and see what happens. Like, this is what they thought. You guys are going to be a tough crowd this morning. Like, 2 little tiny ha-has from that. I thought that was funny, but okay. So, Jesus, though, sometimes needs to come in and restart our hearts. So this morning, I want to do that. I want to let him come in to us. I want to invite you to let Jesus come in and say, okay, Jesus, like reset things for me. Get me started back on the way that I'm supposed to be. So Jesus, my first point this morning, Jesus' home is your heart. Jesus' home is your heart. That's incredible. Also, he wants his home to be filled with peace, right? He wants to like where he lives. He's preparing a place actually in your heart for him to reside. But he's kind of like a house guest, I think, right? He's only going to come in if you invite him in. He only enters with your permission, and then he only starts cleaning the house with your permission, right? Like if you invited somebody over to your house and then all of a sudden, like, you wake up in the morning and like, you invite them to stay in your room upstairs, and all of a sudden in the morning, like, they're cleaning your garage. You'd be a little like, that's weird. I know that my garage is a mess, but I didn't really give you permission for over there. Right? It'd be weird. It'd be weird if you invited somebody to stay and you're like, here's the closet. You can stay in the closet, but the rest of the room, no. Right? You got stuff piled up everywhere, dirty clothes, a plate of food that's starting to smell. And if you were like, that would be embarrassing, right? That'd be weird. But some of us, this is kind of what we do with Jesus. We're like, well, you can come in over here, not the rest of this. And Jesus is like, I want to come in and make a home right? And when somebody comes in to make it their home, when you move in somewhere, when I move in, Allie thinks it's really funny. Thankfully, hopefully we never have to move again. But when we move in, I always want to the first thing I want to do is go put a couple pictures on the wall. I want to make this my home, not just a blank slate around here, not just some of my stuff in the corner. And Jesus wants to come in and he wants to clean up the mess and then make himself at home. But he wants a house of peace. He wants a house of peace. He says in John 14, a little bit later, he says, I'm leaving you with a gift, peace of mind and heart. And the peace I give is a gift the world cannot give. So don't be troubled or afraid. Jesus wants his house to be clean and sturdy. He doesn't want it to be shaking in the earthquakes of the world. He's like, there's no need for that. I got a strong foundation. It doesn't need to shake. It's unshakable. That's where he wants to live. He doesn't want your heart to be troubled. He doesn't want it to be shaken. He wants his home to be filled with peace. He wants it to be filled with peace. Allie and I, when we first got married, one of the places we moved to was Costa Rica. This is literally what our house was there. I also love how there's a satellite dish on the roof. We did not have satellite TV. It was like that when we moved in. There was no running water, but there was as funny this community we lived in. There was we were at the edge of society, so there was electricity, but no running water. And so people had satellite TV and no running water. It was a very interesting place to live. But this is our little home. And one night in that home, one morning actually, we woke up and all of a sudden Allie's like, do you know where I put my Kindle? And I look over and I'm like, do you know where my little tablet went? And we go out into the living room and we're like, where's our coats? Where's our backpack? And we wake up and we're starting to think and realize in the middle of the night, somebody came in and robbed our house. Not just that they come into our house, they came in, right, because the Kindle and the tablet were right on the night tables, right by our bed. And so they came into our room while we were sleeping and stole from us. And then we had a choice out of this, right? What's going to fill our home? Are we going to be shaken or are we going to be at peace? What's our home going to look like? I'm going to come back to this in a minute, but Jesus, he wants to come into our hearts, right, and live and make peace at our home. It's not just a cute saying that we say to the little kids, invite Jesus into your heart and he'll give you peace in your heart. Ephesians, throw that up there. Ephesians chapter 3 says that according to the riches of his glory, he may grant you to be strengthened with power through his Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts. Where is he going to dwell? In our hearts through faith, that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may have strength to comprehend with all the saints. I'm going to come back to that word, to comprehend. It's important. With all the saints, what is the breadth and length and height and depth, and to know the love of Christ that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled with all the fullness of God. Jesus wants to come and live in your heart, right? That place that biblically is the center of our inner life. It's where our emotions, our thinking, our choices all originate from our heart. And it says that Paul is talking to the church and he's saying, I want you to comprehend the love of Christ. It's not just an understanding in your mind. It's not just understanding. It's the concept of taking hold of and making the love of God your own. Of comprehending, he says, the height, the depth, right? If I just, the complexity of this 3D reality of all-encompassing in our lives. I want you to not just I kind of get that God loves me, but I want you to take that and I want you to, for your life, I want you to actually in your heart, in your mind, to be so convinced for yourself. Not that Pastor Austin's convinced of it, so I'm going to kind of live sort of like that. I want you to be convinced of it. I want you to know and make it your own, that your faith is your own, the love of Christ, you know it in your soul, in your being, in your bones. That nothing in this world could shake you because you know that you are loved by the God of the universe so deeply. Make it yours, and then it will transform all of you. That because you know that he loves you, and the extent and the depth and the height of what that love is, that when the fear comes, When the trials and tribulations of this life comes and the fear starts to come in and the adrenaline starts to flow and you start to be shaken, your heart starts to shake and beat a little bit faster, you take the truth of God's love and you say, because I believe in Jesus and the truth that He loves me deeply, because of that, I will not be shaken. Because of that, I know because I am His and He is mine, I've got nothing to fear. I will have peace because I am His child and He is my Father and He is a good Father. I will have peace because I know that the future promised to me as His child is good. I will have peace because God loves me. We know that we've made it our own. Here's the warning though. The heart is where our emotions and all of our decisions, it's where that's derived from. If you don't get your heart right with Jesus first, if you don't actually comprehend God's love and let it actually change your heart, if you don't let Jesus come in and actually clean your house and set up and make Himself at home, then that's where our sin comes from. That's where our fear comes from. That's where these things come from this troubled world. We need to let God come in and heal us. And if this is not difficult for you at times, then you're not doing the heart work of actually letting Jesus come in and do something. Because can I tell you that sometimes difficult things happen, and I don't have peace. And I know Jesus is telling me, you're supposed to have peace. I'm calling you to have peace. Not I'm just inviting you to have peace. I'm telling you to have peace, right? Sometimes things happen in life, and I'm like, I'm really worried right now. How is this going to work out? Sometimes somebody hurts me, and I'm like, I just really want to respond a certain way right now. And I know I'm not supposed to. I'm supposed to have peace. Sometimes it's hard, and we got to do that work to let Jesus come in and clean our hearts and our emotions and our responses and find ourselves refreshed and healthy. The heart, number 2, is the source of sin and holiness for us. Sin or holiness. Sin or holiness. We're supposed to be holy. We're supposed to be like God. That's what holiness means. Set apart, other, just like God. The heart is the source of it. A sick heart, a sick relationship with Jesus and the Father will lead to a sick life. The sickness on the outside is actually just a symptom of what's happening or what has already happened or the reality that is on the inside. It's a signal to you. It's time to fix something, not just with yourself. It's time to fix something with Jesus. There's something in your relationship with Him that is off. You need to get that fixed. The outside is the symptom, right? Jesus says in Matthew 15, from the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, all sexual immorality, theft, lying, slander. These are what defile you. If you are a prideful person, if you have a pornography addiction, if you can't help but just be greedy all the time with your money, if you're just always lusting after the next thing that you're going to be able to purchase and get into your life, if you have any sort of sin in your life, if your marriage is struggling right now, if you've got a relationship that's in difficulty right now, that is a sign that your heart with God is not in the right place. That's also a thing to let God help you fix, but it's a sign that until you fix what's on the inside, you'll never be able to fix that. For decades, I would struggle with certain sins, and then it was not until I finally let God come in and totally make Himself at home and clean up all of my life that all of a sudden those sins were no more. And so long I was like, okay, God, take this, clean it. I don't want it anymore. I want this fixed. I want this fixed. And it wasn't until I let Jesus come in and say, hey, all of me is yours. This is your home, not mine anymore. I gave you the room before. Now I'm giving you the whole house. And I want to give you the authority over the whole thing. I'm going to trust you no matter what. And when you start to experience a shaking, some of us, we just want to invite Jesus in like, hey, would you come clean up that room? I know that room's a mess. I know the house is a mess, but I don't really want you to see the whole thing, Jesus. Right? Like, this part is really in trouble. Could you clean this up? But not the whole thing. I just learned about this phenomenon recently, and I wanted to try to find a video, but I couldn't find a great one for you. You can look it up if you want. There's some you can find, but I just found out that if you have a older, not so much newer, but if you have an older like diesel engine, like a truck, that sometimes there's what's called runaway. And you can let off the gas and the engine keeps going. Not only does it keep going, it accelerates and accelerates and accelerates. Even if you turn off the key, even if you take all the power away from it, it just gets out of control and you cannot stop it until it literally, like the gas tank and the oil gets burned up and it runs out of gas. And some of us are like in that boat where like things are starting to shake and we're like, just get it under control. And Jesus wants to come in like, I need to stop. I need to fix the whole thing. Because this is a sign when it starts to shake that the heart is not in the right place. Isaiah tells us about Jesus. He was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace. And with his wounds, we are healed. We are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity, the sin, the things that we've messed up, the iniquity of us all. With his wounds and blood we're healed. And it's the reality that's already happened, but we need to let God come in and actually make that a truth for us. Because it's a truth in heaven that God has forgiven us of all of our sins and our issues and our challenges. But until we actually let Jesus come in and change us right now physically, the reality that is true spiritually doesn't actually change our lives. Maybe you look at somebody else, you're like, I trusted in Jesus. Like, why isn't my life different? Well, because spiritually you're in the right, you've made the decision to follow Jesus, but maybe you haven't actually let him in to make himself at home and actually made his love, comprehended it, and let it actually transform your life and your home and all of your being. We're called to believe in God. Belief is the acceptance of something as true. And when you get shaken by life, sometimes life can be hard. And when you go on one of those spinning rides that my daughters love at the amusement park, I can't do the 2-year-old ones. Like, I can't go on with them. I get sick. It starts to spin. All right. You go on one of those, or they go on one of those, and they come off, and like the world is still spinning around them, and they just need to like ground their feet on something. Maybe grab me, like, okay, he's not spinning, but my world is still spinning, but I grabbed on. And some of us, we need to grab onto Christ to ground ourselves, to stop our heart from running away without us. We remember the truth. How do we do that? We remember the truth of what God has done in the past. This is I've talked about this before. I'm going to keep talking about it. This is the thing you all did a little bit before we sat down, right? Remember something good in life. Because sometimes it's hard. The storm comes, and we remember, you know what? Last time the storm came, God saved me. You grab a hold of God's love, and we make it our own. We make it our own. We make it our own. Let me grab this quick. I didn't prepare. How do I get back here? All right. I put this over there, but it's not the best place. Right? I got this rope here, and it's a big rope. It's okay. This is what I had, so this is what we're using this morning. Let me tell you something. When I was in my 20s, I learned to really like rock climbing. Let me tell you something else about myself. I'm afraid of heights. I don't know how that works. I don't. I know. It's weird. But I learned, but there's times I would get halfway up the wall. I'd be 30 feet off the ground, 40 feet off the ground, and my heart would start shaking. And then if you've ever been there, your arms can start shaking, and you just can't get control anymore. And I would have to stop and remind myself, like, I'm too afraid to go up anymore, but I also don't want to let go and come down. Right? Because the ground is really far away and I'm stuck there and I'm shaking. I have to remind myself, you know what? Hundreds of times before, that rope has caught me. It saved me. I've been fine. That rope, I'm secure with that rope. And so I can be on the side of a hill and I'm like afraid of heights. Now I can be up on a wall and I got a rope and I'm like, that's fine. I got a rope. Right? And it doesn't make sense, but it's because I've learned that I can trust that rope because of my past. Not because of my past. Matter of fact, this week I needed to grab a rope of my life. I was actually with a couple other pastors. I pray with some pastors every week. Every Wednesday I pray with some pastors. And this week I was just in this place day after day, I couldn't get out of this hump that I was in. And I wasn't in a great place, but I had healthy spiritual practices. I had good routines in my life. Matter of fact, probably healthiest, best I've had in a while. I was in this place. I was just in a frustrating down place. And I started recounting to one of the pastors of like all the good things God has done in the last 6 months. And I started remembering all of these things. And as I started to remember these things, all of a sudden, my soul started to just kind of shift. And my heart just kind of started to shift. I wasn't worried about things anymore. All of a sudden, it was like, I walked outside after that, and this grass is really green. The sun, so beautiful, the sun. Like everything just shifted as I remembered the faithfulness of God. As I said, you know what? Man, I'm so thankful for what God's been doing, and I can say without 100% certainty that it is not my doing. This is God's doing. He's done this. It's not me. It's been amazing what God's done. Sometimes how we kind of get that reset and our heart shocked back into the right rhythm is we just start recounting things in the past of how God's been good, where I've seen him, what's happened, what he's done. And things shifted in my soul. And the peace of Christ got to come in to my heart and quiet it and settle it, and it wasn't shaking anymore. I grabbed hold of that solid ground, that rock that is Jesus, and I started to have peace in my life. They grabbed those paddles, right, like in the ER, and they just like shocked it back into how it's supposed to be. And all of a sudden, I'm in a totally different place than I was the morning before that, because I started to recount the goodness of God. It's like that rope as I'm up the wall. I'm still up the wall. If I fall, I still got to fall, but I'm not worried anymore because I know, I'm not going to fall. I've got Jesus, and Jesus, I don't care what I'm walking through, because I know that everything I've walked through in the past, God has held me up. Every time I've walked, every time I've fallen, that he's picked me up, and I've got to keep going. John 16:33 says, I have said these things to you. Is the final part. There's a final. So Jesus bookends, right? The beginning, don't let your heart be shaken. And then the very end of this saying to the disciples, I have said these things to you that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but take heart, I have overcome the world. I've overcome the world. If you look around right now, you're like, I see wars, and I see turmoil, and I see protests around me. And I see issues across the country, and I see leaders even in the church that have fallen, and I see my bank account going down, and I see, man, the cost of a double-double is now over $10 for a meal. And I mean, it's not quite on a level of wars and turmoil, but I mean, it impacts me. I gotta be honest, right? But you see all that, and you're like, Jesus said, don't worry, that's gonna happen, but take heart, I've overcome the world, so you don't have to worry. So my final point this morning is God's peace protects us. It protects us. This is the peace Paul promises that surpasses understanding. It guards us and keeps us from being shaken. When you read that news article, when you're scrolling on Facebook and you see that person or that thing or whatever it might be that hurt you, when you go into the office and are reminded of what happened that wasn't good, when you look at your bank account, whatever it might be, when injustice happens to you in the world, you are protected. You're protected. It's like the guards outside the city that keep the city able to sleep good at night. And the peace of God, Philippians 4:7, such a famous verse, which surpasses understanding, means I don't even understand sometimes why I'm at peace, how I could have peace, but I do. Because you have taken hold of the love of Christ and made it your own. Like those soldiers guarding the city, it lets the people sleep easy at night. Remember back to Costa Rica, after that time we got robbed? Do you know the next night, I slept fine. Slept at peace. Most of you are like, maybe you should have slept a little lighter so you could wake up if they came back into your house again. No. I slept soundly, like a baby. Not like an actual baby, because I don't know where that phrase came from. But like, I slept so good that night because the peace of Jesus guarded my heart and my mind. It guarded my marriage. I said, you know what, I'm good because I trust in Jesus above everything else. That actually it was better that we didn't wake up when that person stole from us, because we would find out who that person was later, but the justice system is not the same there. It is I don't know. But they didn't arrest him even though we found out who it was, but we knew who it was, and we found out, you know what, that guy carries a knife with him. That guy gets really violent when he encounters somebody. And we said, you know what? I'm grateful, God, that you kept us asleep and we didn't wake up because we were protected and it was fine. Some of you don't know why you've gone through this, and you're like, why didn't God just send some angels? Maybe you're like, why didn't God surround your house with some angels so that didn't happen? You're like, you're there doing ministry. Why wouldn't he protect you? And I don't know, but actually maybe he did. Maybe they were there the week before when Allie was home alone for 2 nights because I had to go on a trip. And maybe they were protecting our home and her so nothing happened. And so much more damage might have happened. You know why that question of why doesn't bother me? Because the peace of Christ Jesus guards my heart, and the love of God, I've made it my own, and I say I'm going to trust no matter what you do, God. I trust my Father in heaven, and I believe in him and his Son and his goodness, that he loves me deeply. And I've taken hold of that and made it my own. In the world, it tries to shake us. It tries to shake my heart. And I shout back at the world like, I'm a child of God. I'm loved by him. Not just loved by him, I'm his son. Romans tells me I'm an heir to the throne of God. Do your worst, world. I'm not worried. Life is a storm. You will bask in the sunlight one moment, be shattered on the rocks the next. What makes you a son of God or a daughter of God is what you do when that storm comes. And you say, do your worst, because I'm his and he's mine. I'm not worried. Our church is here to help you walk out your faith in victory. It starts with a belief in God and all else, that you're not shaken. Romans 8, this beautiful picture of our reality. For all who are led by the Spirit of God are sons of God. For you did not receive the spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you have received the spirit of adoption as sons, as daughters, by whom we cry, Abba, Father. The Spirit himself bears witness with our spirit that we are children of God. And if children, then heirs, heirs of God and fellow heirs with Christ, provided we suffer with him in order that we might also glorify him. I don't think you fully comprehend the reality of that truth. Will you make it your own? Will you grab a hold and say, I'm not a slave to fear or difficulty. It's not just one of those days. You have the power to change it in Jesus. It's not, it's just typical for my life. No. God has given you power as his son. It's not, it is what it is. This is as good as it's going to be. No. You've been adopted alongside Christ, and that means you get to approach the throne of heaven and encounter your Father and say, God, this is what I need from you. I need some help. God, you get to approach him. We will suffer, Jesus says, trials, tribulations. There will be wars. There will be challenges. We will face temptations to sin. We will face injustice in this world. It's not if it will come for you, it's will you face it. We are his heirs, it says, if we suffer with him, because then we'll be glorified with him. That means you go into the world bearing his name of Christian. It's not something to be underestimated. It's not something to take for granted. It means you have the power of heaven backing you when you go. It means when you need the power of God, all of heaven stands at your back. So when the enemy is shouting at you and shaking you, saying you should be ashamed of yourself, saying you are nothing, you are never going to experience joy again, saying you will never amount to anything, you will never have a family or children, or you're such a failure, you shout back at him and say, lies. I am a son or daughter of Jesus Christ. You did your worst to Jesus and death couldn't hold him. I'm a son or daughter of the Lord Most High. You tried your worst and it was not enough. I stand in his love. I stand before the throne of heaven as an heir to that kingdom. Would you stand with me? We're going to worship him. To say, hey, God, I stand here as your son, as your daughters. I stand here with the power of heaven's armies at my back. I stand here with the power of God. Stand with me. Say, this Holy Spirit lives inside of me. That God the King of the universe loves me deeply. I'm his heir. I'm his son. I'm his daughter. And we shout that do your worst. I'm good because he's with me and he will not let me be forsaken. I know who I am in Jesus. I am loved. I am loved. I am loved. So we're going to respond with this worship song to just say that I know who I am in Christ Jesus. I know who I am.